The past few years have brought significant changes in my life, and through them all, I've come to realize just how much I need Jesus. Lately, many of you have been praying for me as I consider a move to Uganda. To give you some context, working in Africa was never something I'd considered. In fact, it was the one place I thought I wasn't willing to go. Yet as opportunities in India began to close, I sensed God gently asking, "You say you're open to my leading, but are you really? Have you even considered Africa?" For months, I wrestled with this question. I prayed, admitting to God, I've never wanted to go to Africa. Besides, I'm still shaken by some frightening experiences I had in India. What if something bad happens to me? What if it's too difficult for me? Gradually, my heart began to soften, and I started to feel a connection to Africa. As I explored options, Uganda stood out, a country where the average age is just 16 and that offers more stability compared to other regions. Even many Congolese children, among the world's poorest, find refuge there. Still, before committing, I felt I needed to see Uganda for myself. My father agreed to accompany me on the trip. During our visit, I was especially interested in seeing places where poverty seemed more severe than usual. In one village, we met an elderly man who was single-handedly raising his 9 grandchildren after losing both his wife and the children's parents. As we spoke, villagers nearby gathered around a tree stump, playing games and drinking, while loud music filled the air. After about 10 minutes of conversation, this grandfather astonishingly offered me half of his grandchildren on the spot. Continuing through the village, we encountered a woman whose husband had abandoned her for someone else. Left to care not only for their 7 children, but also for his 4 children from a previous marriage, she struggled to provide for all of them in a single small thatched hut. The vacant expressions on the children's faces struck me. I realized what a privilege it would be to share God's love with them, to bring brightness and purpose back into eyes dulled by hardship. Even if I could only spend a short time guiding these children through faith, just as Jochebed guided Moses, imagine the comfort they could bring to their mothers' and grandfathers' hearts with proper guidance. Despite all of this, I still wasn't ready to commit. I needed God's confirmation, so I told everyone I'd probably make my final decision once I got back to Alaska. 3 main concerns weighed on me. 1, am I truly capable of handling this? 2, will my efforts make a difference, or am I only at risk of being taken advantage of? 3, am I being wise about my future, especially as I grow older and think about retirement? After returning to Alaska, I sought solicitude in the hospital's meditation room, pouring out my heart to God in prayer, especially about the decision regarding Uganda. I earnestly asked God to make His will unmistakably clear to me. That evening, I happened to listen to Chapter 2 of Testimonies, Volume 2, even though I hadn't been reading from the testimonies lately. 1, and I quote, "If you engage in this work of mercy and love, will the work prove too hard for you? Will you fail and be crushed under the burden? Oh no, God has carefully removed all doubts upon this question by a pledge to you on condition of your obedience. This promise covers all that the most exacting, the most hesitating could crave. Then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thine health shall spring forth speedily. Only believe that He is faithful that hath promised. God can renew the physical strength, and more, He says He will do it, and the promise does not end here. Thy righteousness shall go before thee. The glory of the Lord shall be thy rear reward. God will build a fortification around thee. The promise does not stop even here. Then shalt thou call, and the Lord shall answer. Thou shalt cry, and he shall say, Here I am. If ye put down oppression and remove the speaking of vanity, if ye draw out your soul to the hungry, then shall thy light rise in obscurity, and thy darkness shall be as a noonday. And the Lord shall guide thee continually, and satisfy thy soul in drought, and make fat thy bones, and thou shalt be like a watered garden, and like a spring of water, whose waters fail not. 2. And I quote, You may say, You have taken in and have bestowed your means upon those unworthy of your charity, and therefore have become discouraged in trying to help the needy. I present Jesus before you. He came to save fallen man, to bring salvation to his own nation, but they would not accept him. They treated his mercy with insult and contempt, and at length they put to death him who came for the purpose of giving them life. Did our Lord turn from the fallen race because of this? 3. And I quote, When Elijah came to the woman of Sarepta, she shared her morsel with the prophet of God, and he wrought a miracle, and caused that in that act of making a home for her servant and sharing her morsel with him, she herself was sustained, and her life and that of her son preserved. Each excerpt felt as though God was directly responding to my concerns, stripping away any excuse I could make. I knew I must help Uganda. Rather than questioning whether I should go, my prayer shifted to asking God to bless us with her approval for the Ugandan Foreign Non-Governmental Organization before my contract in Alaska ended. Securing the NGO was crucial. Among other things, it would allow me to remain in Uganda for long term. Remarkably, just 1 week after my contract in Alaska concluded, God answered our prayers and granted us the NGO. While there are still many moving parts, I plan to relocate to Uganda in January and periodically return to Alaska for a few months at a time over the next several years to continue advancing the project. I humbly ask for your continued prayers, especially for divine wisdom and meekness. Your prayers matter, and I thank you for this immense opportunity.